I have had multiple questions over the years about what to do with our research, or maybe what happens to our research after we die. What about somebody who has already died? How can we get access to their account? Let's face it, we don't live forever, so what happens to our research when we're gone? What happens to our Ancestry account when we die? What happens to my archives, my files, my photographs? How can I share my ancestry tree with my family? How can I share my account without having someone else have to pay for an Ancestry subscription? Is that possible? How about this one? If an Ancestry member passes away with a public tree, is it still public? Or if an Ancestry member dies with a private tree, is the tree available or is it private? We're going to answer all of those questions coming up in just a moment, but let's face it, you never know when our last day will come. So let's have this conversation, because we don't want all of our years of genealogical research only to be tossed out when we're gone. This is too important. Stick around. This is what we're talking about today. So welcome back to another episode. If this is your first time here, my name is Connie Knox. I am a lifelong genealogist, here to help you go further, faster, and factually with your family history research. Today, this video is sponsored by the Genealogy TV Academy. Yes, it's kind of a shameless plug, but yes, we'll talk more about that later. But first, if you find this channel helpful, please subscribe or like the videos. You know how this works. We're going to focus on the biggest platforms first. This is Ancestry and FamilySearch. These are the two that we're really talking about today. Starting with FamilySearch, there really is nothing that you need to do. All of the work that you have put into the family tree, because it's a one world collaborative tree, it's going to be there forever and you don't need to do anything. Now, the only thing you need to worry about is if you have put hyperlinks to a personal website, or I don't know, Facebook groups or something that had documentation, then those links will probably break when those websites come down. So be careful of that. Hyperlinks don't always survive. So just be mindful of that. That information you might want to just, if it's something on a personal website, then you might want to just go ahead and upload it to FamilySearch, okay? All right, let's talk about Ancestry, because a lot of you are on Ancestry. And at Ancestry, it's a little bit of a different story. There are a couple different ways you can go about this. So I have a clip from when I was at Roots Tech 2020. I had asked Krista Cowan about this very subject. And so we're going to see what she had to say. I had created an episode called How to Share Your Ancestry Tree with Another. And the question was from Bob Pagan, and he says, how do you pass down your tree to another without them having to pay for an Ancestry account?
So you can right now share your tree with anyone, and they do not have to have an Ancestry subscription, so they don't have to pay for it. They can have access to your tree. So for example, I share my tree with my mom. She has viewer access to my tree. She does not have a paid subscription to Ancestry.
Okay.
So she can see my tree on her account. She can interact with it. But she can't access the actual records on Ancestry. So she can see that there is a record. She can view the source information for that record. But if she wants to view the image of that record, she would need a subscription.
So she can see the tree, though, without problem. So if I hand my tree and I give, even at what, okay, let me, the questions are just rattling off in my head. If I give my daughter admin access, I die, I'm gone, and she now has admin access to my tree, but no longer wishes to pay for it. Same thing goes?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure. If a member passes away, is the tree still public?
If the tree was public before they died, the tree will remain public forever. However, the inverse then is also true. If their tree was private and they die, that tree remains private unless a family member has password access to their account and chooses to change it.
Wonderful. All right, let's talk about archives for a moment. During the pandemic, this was really top of mind for a lot of people. I had the good fortune to sit behind the scenes during the pandemic, believe it or not, at the North Carolina State Archives. And while I was there, I did this whole video for the NC Ancestry YouTube channel, my other channel, okay? And so while I was there, I asked, what type of files do state archives typically accept? And the short answer was digital archives for the most part, and anything of historic value. Now, if it's going to be large artifacts that might go to a museum or something of that nature, So keep that in mind. Also know that most state archives, I would say almost all of them, have some sort of genealogy library or genealogical society associated with the state archive. So this is where you can submit your printed or digital materials for your, like your family history. If you printed it out, you can submit that stuff to the state genealogical society or the genealogy library. So there is a handout for this episode, and the handout has every U.S. state archives website hyperlinked, and their email addresses and their phone numbers. So if you want to reach out to them and ask them what they will accept, you can pick up that handout if you want. The handout is available to channel members and patrons who are at that handout level, and all of the Genealogy TV Academy members who have access to that. There are links in the description about how to get the handouts. You can also purchase it over at genealogytv.org. All right. Let's talk about more ideas for you. The easiest thing that you can do is share your username and password with someone you trust. I recommend you change your password at least once a year and share it with those family members. From firsthand experience, I can tell you that getting information off of somebody's computer or elsewhere without those passwords can be a daunting task for those who are left behind. After we are gone, if they don't have your passwords, it can be very challenging to get that information. So make sure that you share that. Now, you could create a document for your family about your wishes that they have access to after you're gone. You could put it in your will, or you could keep these papers with your important papers that you would expect them to find after we pass away. Now, you can even add your username and password in your estate documents if that's something you choose. Ancestry has on multiple occasions recommended just sharing your username and password. However, if sharing that information is not an option, here is what your family will need to do to access your Ancestry account after you're gone. Okay? So, getting access to an Ancestry account after someone who has died, so there's two options. One is send a request from the email address that is attached to the Ancestry account, okay? And the other option is to provide legal documents that show you're entitled to access the account, okay? And you will probably need to provide additional information. So there's more information on the website about if you are an executor, what you need to do. All right, let's talk about deleting accounts. Deleting accounts, yes. Let's talk about deleting accounts for a moment. If you gain access to someone's account, please do not delete it. Even if you don't want to pay for it, the family tree will stay there. All the hard work that the person put into the tree will remain as a free account. The only thing you won't have access to is some of the records that are linked behind the paywall at Ancestry, okay? So the tree and all the data will remain there for others to access as long as it's a public tree. Now, once you have access to the account, you can download the files, the records, the photos, and the DNA and everything in the family tree, okay? All right, let's take a break for a moment because that's a lot to digest and learn a little bit about the Genealogy TV Academy. Hey, did you know that you can get everything I produce all in one place, commercial free? Well, now you can at the Genealogy TV Academy. For one membership price, you can get an all-access pass that includes all of the online courses, all of the YouTube channel videos dating back to 2022, early release of any new videos coming up on the YouTube channel, the live classroom instruction via Zoom, and the handouts and worksheets associated with all the videos. If you want to learn more, go to genealogytv.org/academy. I know this is a tough subject. Nobody wants to talk about this, but I encourage you to have the conversation with your family. If your tree is private, consider making it public so that others can learn from your hard work. Now, even if you are a little shy about whether some of your connections are correct or not, go into those connections and mark them as unverified, okay? You can do that with tree tags, all right? Add notes to your ancestors wherever you're unsure. That way you don't feel bad about making your tree public, okay? Lastly, as much as we'd like to, we don't live forever. So if you're like me, you've spent decades chasing ancestors, documenting and preserving the past for our future generations. Let's make sure that it's preserved, all right? It's hard enough on your family and friends. When you leave this world, make sure it's easy on them to get your family history and all of that documentation that you've worked so hard for. All right? Okay. Well, that was a tough one, I know. But on a happy note, there are more videos over here for you to watch to help you with your family history research.